You said Professor O'Donnell. Okay, this is Jared Killian by us. Who is she? I'm just kidding. Who is he? Okay, so he's a Czech dancer and contemporary choreographer. He's still alive, which is great. He's still working today. As a child, he was inspired by circus acrobatic performances before transferring over to ballet, because those have so much in common. He joined a ballet company and then began immediately working as a choreographer, which is kind of unusual. And after the death of the artistic director, he stepped up and was like, hey, I got it. So that's how he came to be in charge. So his choreography style, I like it. It's a ballet fusion with modern elements, and then like a random moment of complete freedom or relaxation, or like a general human movement that makes it a little bit more relatable to the audience. He explored limitations and capabilities of space, body parts, entrances, exits, contrast, and humor. So he liked to take things in his everyday life, or like his opinions or experiences, and make a piece about that. Much of his ballet training is very visible in the movement quality, as well as the dancers that he uses. And you can see that absolutely gorgeous line of her leg. Like, these are ballet dancers for sure. He used irregular rhythm to create suspense, and he also played with suspense of two people. It kind of makes you hold your breath for a second, like that middle image. Like, you're like, ooh, are they gonna fall? You know, and it makes it really exciting. So one of his, I think this is his most famous work. It's called Falling Angels, and it was created about the women and their role in society in the 80s. So Falling Angels, religiously speaking, is about angels who rebel against God and are cast out of his kingdom. And this is connected to the idea that if women rebel against their stereotype, they will be unwanted and cast out of his kingdom, lowercase his. Yeah. So Killian used symbolism such as like irregular arms and like to represent wings, and they're like broken pieces off of the dancers' bodies. And the movement phrases have like this kind of vibrating motion, and it can resemble flying or falling, whichever way you want to look at it. There are a lot of gestures to the face to kind of shield the women's eyes or mouth from the audience, kind of like hindering their voice or sight, or saying that they can't express visually. And a really significant pattern throughout the piece is the use of unison, with one person kind of breaking off and messing up the chain, the kinetic chain. So here are some pictures. The light that's kind of casting down is like the light of heaven. So like that first top one, it kind of looks like they're like falling or like writhing in pain as they're like falling from the sky, and they're celebrating heaven, whatever. And you see like the wings at the bottom, and there's like things where they look like they're kind of in flight, which is that bottom middle one. And then of course you have them grouped together, covering their mouths, saying like they can't voice their opinions. It's very politically aggressive. So it kind of goes along with women in the 1980s. This is like what we have historically going on. So this was the second wave of the women's movement. It began in the 1960s and lasted until the 1980s. So like we're now just getting the courage kind of to speak out on everything. The fight against equal rights amendment was happening, and a fight for equal rights under the law, regardless of sex. We had to fight for abortion rights and for birth control. Fighting to break free from the mold of like the perfect housewife that was kind of like the visual aesthetic in the 70s. Falling angels, or women refusing to fit their designated role, covering their mouths, voices. And they also pull up their costumes well, which I found really interesting, because it's kind of like showcasing that their body isn't this perfect image, which is honestly kind of funny because he only used really thin ballet dancers. And here's a picture, and there's my political opinion at the top.
Okay, so he also had a lot of other important works. He was a very versatile choreographer. So Heart's Labyrinth is a more like balletic piece. So it's set to short expressionist music, which he described as disastrously beautiful. and he didn't really take what the public thought into consideration while choreographing, and especially in this one. He basically made a conscious decision to not care what they thought and how they reacted to it. And this piece was inspired by a member of NDT, which is the dance theater. In 1984, she killed herself right after she retired, and she like had just finished performing and went and did it. So he was, it wasn't. He said it's not choreographic inspiration; it's choreographic desperation, a way to like kind of grieve over it and all of that. So they use a mirror upstage, and it's like a female soloist and males for the group work, and so she's like looking at herself in the mirror and all that, and then they all dance in front of the mirror, so self-reflection, all that, about all of that sadness. And then Silent Cries is a solo that he choreographed for his wife, Sabine, a really European sounding last name that I can't pronounce. So it was Dance to Afternoon of the Fawn, which is this it's a happier kind of song about this fawn going to go explore the woods with these nymphs, but instead of using that as inspiration, he opposes it, and he wants it to seem as if it's her dreams and wishes all surrounding her, and she's just she is lost in it and is undoubting and all of that good stuff. And then Six Dances is very different. So he uses this is an example of his comical dances where he uses humor and stuff. So basically they're dressed in Mozartian underwear. So they have powdered wigs, and the men are just in nude pants and no shirts, and the women are in just nude, just basic dresses. And so he basically is juxtaposing he's using serious movement but using lighthearted comedy within it. So they'll throw their powder and stuff at each other and play with their bubbles are coming out, falling on them and everything, but they're still doing serious dance. And then he also choreographed Stamping Grounds, which is based off of the Australian Aborigines, except this isn't like Ruth St. Denis kind of era where they just were oh, this is cool, I'm going to create based off of this. He went and researched the Aborigines, and he went and visited Australia and created works based off of that. And he did not want to copy their dances in any way whatsoever, because tribes of the Aborigines don't copy each other's tribal dances. So he took it as inspiration for his Aborigines dance for NDT and not replicating it in any way. And then Petite Mort, which is one of his more famous ones. It's a very sexual dance. So it's 6 men and 6 women, and the men have these fencing swords, and it said that the swords are partners to the men and the women are. But so it has symbolic representations of sexuality in there, but it also has some pretty not obscene but more straightforward this is about sex kind of things. So then that also was him kind of commenting on all sexuality, whether it be gay, straight, whatever. And he was just very accepting of all of it and was putting that out into the world during all of that. So here's some pictures of it. Heart's Labyrinth. You can see the mirror upstage. Silent Cries. You can see you can all see it in that picture, that kind of image of her being lost and all that whirlwind of confusion and self-doubt and all of that. So that was a good representation. 6 Dances. You can see the bubbles falling down on them, and you can, I mean, it's a pretty comical pose you would really see in ballet. They have a very expressionist faces. Stamping ground, very like athletic Aborigines. They're in the air. And then petite mort. It's one of the most famous pictures of it. That one's, I said that one's more of like a symbolic sexual picture than one of the more straight out ones. Okay, so he was raised in Czechoslovakia, so like early life and all that. So Czechoslovakia during all this, they had just signed the Warsaw Pact, which was when the Soviet, Russians, whatever, officially were in control of Czechoslovakia and all the surrounding countries. And then after that was the Prague Spring, which is where they got rid of all that and it started to normalize and neutralize. So that kind of led to Czechoslovakia became a country that was like scared to contrast itself and knock itself down. Basically, they didn't want to, after all the neutralization, normalization, they didn't want to step out of bounds kind of and cause something to crumble. So it was very tiptoeing through life kind of thing. So all this stuff that he was producing or further produce in the future, how out there it was could be because of this. So he wanted to all these ideas that he wasn't able to get out because of his upbringing. And then he said they were all children of the Baroque. So he liked the kinky, the asymmetric, distorted lines from the Baroque period, but he did not use any of the eccentrics or the color and all that. Most of his stuff, as you can see in those pictures, are all very neutral colors. They're all black, brown, sepia kind of tones. So that's always how he costumed his work. So that also has to do with his works weren't the choreography itself weren't dull or muted, but the costuming was. So that can also be because of the normalization and all of the communism and all that growing up. So why is he important to dance history? See, he actively. Oh wait, I forgot to talk about something cool about T4. With going back to commenting on women and stuff. In T4, when the women dance, they have these. They're these almost set piece dresses where they roll and move with them, and it looks like they're just in these extravagant black ball gowns, and then they come away from them and separate themselves and cling to it and everything, and then they're in nude Leos and stuff. So that could also be commenting on sexuality of women coming away from all of that, and then as well as all the feminism stuff Kelly talked about and wanting to be able to express all of what they want to express and step away from those gender roles. So he's important because of all of that, because he fought gender roles and was open with sexuality and all of that, and he represented people and gave people voices, and that's especially important after him growing up in the communism and all of that neutralization, being able to have that voice and give that voice to people